Welcome to the Deepak Saini Show.
He said he gon' huff and puff and blow my mind up. You meet the island girl, she might Jxxiii wind up.
Welcome to the Deepak Saini Show. I'd like to thank Jxxiii for the intro music. You can find a link to her music in the show description. My guest today is Jeffrey Weiss. Oh man, what can I say about Jeffrey? Business and leadership coach, trained corporately, trained many things, including disaster preparedness, which is one of the reasons why I wanted to get him on the show today. He also coaches on corporate social responsibility, a ton of certifications, a ton of recognitions, American Red Cross, Habitat for Humanity. The list goes on and on. Maybe we'll talk about some of that. Very impressive bio for sure. Jeffrey, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm really happy to be here. I've been looking forward to this interview.
As have I. So I like to always start with, again, I just skimmed the surface of your bio here, but like I mentioned, one of the things that really got me interested when I was doing some research was kind of about the emergency preparedness, and I thought, oh, that's something that's really cool, something interesting. I've never had a guest on the show with that before. I want to talk about that, so we don't have to start there. But maybe I always like to ask guests, like most of my guests I want to say unconventional, not the normal, i.e. the emergency person. So how did you fall into this? And you feel free to take a few minutes to get us, to where you're at today.
So I'll tell you, when I was a little boy, 10 years old, my best friend that I had since I knew him when I was 4 years old was tragically killed in a car accident.
Oh my gosh.
And my sorrow, I went to Baltimore to visit my grandmother. We wrote poetry and created sculptures. And one day she took me on a trip to Washington, D.C. And we saw the Washington Monument, the White House, the Lincoln Memorial. But what made the lasting impression on me throughout my entire life was a trip to the National Portrait Gallery. And it was an exhibit of the Roosevelts. And I stood before this giant statue of Eleanor Roosevelt, and my grandmother read me these words: "When you cease to make a contribution, you begin to die. When you cease to make a contribution, you begin to die." And these words hit me like a bolt of lightning, because my friend, all he wanted to do was to help other people. And so from that moment on, I made a dedication to my friend's memory and to myself that whatever I do would have some level of contribution to others and to make a contribution in life. And that's what I spent my life doing, and making a contribution, whether in all my careers and my businesses that I've started. And so I've been with the American Red Cross for many years. I was at 9/11, Hurricane Katrina, Sandy, local disasters. I'm a shelter supervisor for them, just a feeding manager, logistics manager, public relations officer, government relations officer, many things. I work with the Rose Parade every year, running first aid stations. In fact, yesterday I was at the LA Pride Festival, running a first aid station, and during the parade and during the festival, making sure people were safe and well during triage. I'm an EMT, actually, with the Red Cross, so I do that. And I've saved many lives. And so it's important to me. I've built, like I said, I've built hundreds of houses with the Habitat for Humanity. I spend time each week at a Sikh temple making hundreds of meals for people in need. And so it's important to me to give back and be a contribution, but still, do business and make money and make a contribution to you. Because if you don't take care of yourself, you can't take care of other people. So it's important to take care of yourself and take care of other people by still giving a contribution back.
I love that, Jeffrey, and I love that quote that you shared there as well. And I kind of parallel that with, not only just your last statement, but also that quote. I always feel, sometimes I get criticized because I spend 2 to 2.5 hours a day on my own self-care. And some people say, oh, that's kind of selfish. You could be working on your business. You could be spending time with your children. I was like, but if I don't spend that time for myself, I'm not the best version of myself. I can't be the best husband. I can't be the best father. I can't be the best coach, etc. And I also feel the same too. My zone of genius is kind of on the aging process and how to reverse the effects of aging. But to put a little spin on that quote that you said earlier, I think if you're not growing, if you're not helping and making contribution or living your purpose, if you will, then we're slowly starting to die in my case,
Right.
my
If you don't
context,
take, if you don't take care of yourself, you can't take care of others.
Absolutely,
If
absolutely.
you're not the best in health and the best in spirit, you can't take care of your kids. You can't play with your kids because you're sick. If you don't have enough money to support your family, your kids can't go to school and graduate and go to the things they want to do. So you got to take care of yourself so that you can take care of others. In Red Cross, we have a thing that's called scene safety. You don't run into a situation and not know what's happening. You need to stop, look around, and take care and don't run into danger, because if you run into danger, you're going to get hurt and you can't take care of others.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know about scene safety because I'm taking, of course, been certified as well. So very certified. So I've done the Red Cross programs myself as well. So that's very, very good point for sure. So Jeffrey, let's move on to, maybe let's start with the CSR piece, the corporate social responsibility.
Yeah.
It's a big, I come from the corporate world previously, corporate accounting, corporate finance. We now have to start actually accounting for these things in corporations' numbers. But maybe explain to me, or to the audience, I should say, why is it so important? Why is it important to actually have these type of programs and to actually be a good steward in that regard?
Yeah. So, the three things that any business wants to do to be successful, the three most important things that I hear all the time is we want to retain our best employees. We want to attract the best employees to come work for a company because they make the best leaders and grow our business. And the third thing is we want to build our brand. And nothing does that more than volunteerism. But if you do it at a corporate level and have a corporate vision of giving back and doing it, you're able to build your brand. I work for a thing called Men, Meeting Easy with Dignity, and Ralph's, a supermarket, gives groceries to men. When I see Ralph's groceries giving to men, I say, gee, I appreciate that Ralph's is doing that, so I want to shop at Ralph's. So the community, see that you're out there reaching and you're identifying with the things that are important to them, so they are in turn giving back and being good customers. Now, also, when you're an employee, when your employees volunteer and give back, they get a sense of self-worth and accomplishment, which makes them feel better about themselves. And they're less likely to do harmful things at work, say harmful things, steal, do other things that are distracting or disruptive to your thing. And because they are more committed to your vision of giving back, they're more apt to stay with your company and become better employees. And the top employees out there are looking for companies not only with the potential to make a high profit, but also to help the marginalized. And that's what's important to our younger generation of people coming into the workforce. They kind of care as much for them making money as they do helping the people in need. And so these three things are the core values of our CSR system. And we developed a whole system. With my years in business and my years in working with the volunteers community, I've developed a core sense of structure. We start with a 4-pillar system, which is we each had to create an organizational structure for creating the CSR system, the fundamentals of what software is and how to do it and how to develop a program. We help you with developing leaders and teams to help run the program. We then help you find the right public and private partnerships and how to work with them correctly. I have one incident with a company. They were a construction company, and they were working with Habitat for Humanity, building houses. And that's what they thought was a great engagement, but they had really low engagement. And so I said, well, you're having your people work at your work, building houses all day, and then you want them on their off time to build houses all day. So I connected them with the Red Cross, working with a thing called Sound the Alarm, where they put smoke detectors in low-income homes. And that still engaged them in their skills, but enabled them to do something that they could do fun. And they could also involve their family. Their kids could come with them and do it, and their wives and their partners. So their engagement went up multiple times. Now, besides showing organizational structures, building teams, showing how to create the public and private partnerships, we also move into a reward system, because you got to be able to show your appreciation to people for how much they do. And not only showing the appreciation to the volunteers who are volunteering, but showing a volunteer appreciation to the teams and the leaders that are running the organization, and showing appreciation to the organizations you are volunteering with. Because when you do, if you're in a church or synagogue, or and you then tweet and promote and give and show appreciation in some ways by helping them out in other ways, they will in turn give you more. They'll put you on their social media list, and they'll promote you more, because they'll feel engaged to help you, and they'll build your brand up, and they'll put you in a better place when you volunteer. They'll be more engaged with you. You'll get much more out of it. And also look to your left and right, because when you're volunteering, there's other organizations that are volunteering with you. And by showing appreciation to them, you then create an opportunity for networking, which can be an opportunity for more business and more brand building and stuff like that. So these are the core values. And then we go into other things, like we go into grants and leadership, we go into employee engagement, we go into the 17 goals of the UN sustainability, and we talk about a number of different things in my CSR training program. And it's really cool. Most of it's done online. You know, we follow with an online 13 course online course, and then we follow it up with one-on-one trainings and stuff like that. And it's really a well thing. Mostly we deal with HR departments, those are the people who more engage with us on that, and we train them, but we also train the C-suite people and other leaders. Yeah.
Yeah, so Jeffrey, I think that's a good segue. I was already thinking this. I wanted to bring it up. So when I worked corporately, with the United Way and something called Corporate Challenge, where other similar sized companies would do events against each other, all for charity, et cetera, like that. I always found, I was on some of the, for many years, I was on some of those committees as part of the employee engagement committee. I always found, it's one thing to have sort of like a corporate, or sorry, a C-suite sponsor. That's one thing, but to have them actually involved and out there making sandwiches or doing the activities, riding the bike for whatever the thing is, I think that always, you need leadership from the top. And I'm glad you said that, because you start with the HR, and I was gonna be like, oh, hold on. But I'm glad you brought in the C-suite, because I think it's super important. Obviously, my feelings, HR can, kind of distribute it throughout the organization, but you really need message from the top, and really not just message, but action. They need the executives need to be sort of boots on the ground. That's number one. The second thing you made me remember, or I wanted to comment on. So again, I don't work corporately anymore. My wife still does, and they have that not only these same type of events throughout the year for raise money, but they also have volunteerism, where they don't get time off to do it, but for any volunteer work they do in the community, they can basically kind of track them, and then they get like extra rewards. So
yes.
Like my wife example, she, we're a big support. I have two girls, so we're big supporters of the Girl Guides and that sort of thing. So my wife is a leader, and et cetera, et cetera. So she can bank those things, then she gets contribution towards, I think, her health spending plan, so she can get an extra massage or whatever she decides to do. So I think those things are all good for sure. I do want to move on though, because again, this was like super interesting to me about emergency or disaster preparedness. So I guess two-parter, how did you fall into that? And then like, what's the biggest thing anyone can learn, corporately, or even the small entrepreneur, the person with the small business, like
So I'll tell you, I mean, like I said, I've been working with the Red Cross, running shelters and doing working on disaster sites for many years, and I've learned how to do that. And I've worked with many people in disaster preparedness, and I have trained people in disaster preparedness as well. So, and it's very important that you have a full plan, because if you have two options: either you plan for a disaster or you react to a disaster. That's it. Nothing else is possible. I'll tell you a story. Last year in Texas, there was a huge winter storm. And there was this one company, and they had not prepared a communication system. And so parents couldn't communicate with their kids at the school that was 13 miles away. And they had no idea if their kids were safe. So what did good parents do? They got in their car and drove to the school. The winter storm got so severe, the cars froze in the weather, and 4 parents passed away.
No, I did not hear that part of the story.
6 children were now orphaned, all because a company did not invest in a $1,000 satellite phone or connect to the American Red Cross Safe and Well site that would allow everyone to communicate, or the FEMA Family Connects program, or many other programs. There's apps on your phone that can back as walkie-talkie systems that don't need cell coverage, and different things like that go off repeaters for CB systems. So there's lots of ways you can do. And if you don't prepare a communication system, have a triage drill. What happens when a major disaster happens and people are hurt at work? How do you do triage? You know, I was doing a triage drill at a school, and we had mannequins representing people who were injured. And even though they were mannequins, some of the faculty were hesitant to leave the bodies of these mannequins and go on and do disaster and do damage assessment to other people, but they didn't want to leave this mannequin, even though it wasn't a real person. You know, imagine if it was a real person, what their feelings would be. But their job was to go and do damage assessment, to say, okay, this person needs this. Let me report back to main base. This person needs that, and let me move on. But if you stay with that one person, you may help that one person, but the 5 other people are gonna suffer. So you understand how these things work, and you got to know how to do triage. You know, and also, we also do active shooter training. You know, if you're not and most people think active shooter, they listen to this run, hide, fight program, which is what everyone talks about. If you can't first run away, if you can't run away, you hide. If you can't hide, you fight. And that's, and fighting doesn't mean with a gun. You know, there's all these people who are saying, oh, the only way to stop a good guy with a gun is a bad guy with a gun. That's not true. If you have a good guy with a gun who doesn't know how to use a gun, that's not helping. You know, that's another gun involved in the situation. The police who stop people with guns, they are training every day how to stop you with a gun. Okay.
Yeah.
They're not just picking up a gun for the first time. So you can fight with a fire extinguisher. You can fight with pushing a tray on somebody. But what we do in training is not just a run, hide, fight program, but what do you do to spot people before they happen? How can you react and create a situation where employees and people do not engage in these bad behaviors? And then what do you do after an incident happens? For instance, in Tennessee, when that trans woman came in and shot the school up, the school closed their doors and did a service for their students. Well, the problem is that not all the students went to that service, and then not only the students were affected by that, but the community was involved in that. The kids who went to that school who had perished shopped in the local markets. They bought clothes at the department store. They were involved in that community. The whole community was involved, and the school closed their doors and didn't react to the community. The same thing happened in the dance hall. In California here. If you close off and don't react properly to the situation, you'll damage your reputation, and you won't be properly reacting to and helping the community improve. Because if you leave it up to the officials, the police department and the city councils or the mayors or whatever, they may not have your best interest at heart. They have their best interest at heart.
No,
that
goes without saying, I think.
Yeah. So you need to react properly. So you need to plan for disasters properly, whether it's communication system, triage systems, evacuation systems, and not only how are you protecting your employees, but also how are you reacting to the community. For instance, this tanker truck that just collapsed the freeway. So the mayor's office, the Department of Transportation are reacting to the community by finding alternate routes and creating alternate routes for people to go with. They're adding rail cars to their stations so that the people have more commuting properly, more options to commute. So you need to react to the community, because if you don't react to the community and properly, the community will feel it. If you, like the old adage is, if you don't react, people will recognize that. If you do react, people remember that even more. So it's important that you react to people properly and engage them. Don't just close your eyes off and say someone else is going to handle this. Because if you do that, you'll cost lives and you'll ruin your brand.
Yeah, Jeffrey, I didn't want to interrupt you there. I want to go back
No,
a bit.
it's
There's a couple of things you said when you were talking about that, what happened in Texas there. It reminded me of, so I live west of Calgary here in Alberta, Canada, and, I know, global audience here, but some people might remember 2013, June, so about this time of year, 10 years ago now, when high rain and high heat quickly melted the mountain snow too much at the river and actually flooded downtown Calgary. And the reason I bring this up, to your point, is, Calgary is the energy hub of Canada. All these preparedness systems and procedures and policies are all in place for the field, for field operations. If you should have a well blowout, H2S gas, whatever the case, all that. But what happens if head office should flood? No one would have anticipated, the 100-year flood, whatever, 1,000-year flood, whatever they call it. I remember because I was still working corporately in 2013, and the amount of preparedness, even from, like you said, a communication is like, I had a team of 25 I was leading at that time. I think I had emails, personal emails of maybe a half a dozen, and personal phone numbers of maybe 3 of my staff.
Yeah,
and only because I only knew that office was closed because, being in management, I got the management email from the C-suite. And then I contacted the 3 people I know. And luckily, because this person knows this person who has 3 numbers, and, we kind of, meshed it, and we're able to get a hold of it. You don't go in the office. We don't know when the office is going to open. Stay at home, blah, blah, blah. We were able to get everyone, but not everyone can do that. So, I think that it makes a good point of, as much as corporations, or even our families for that matter, best laid out plans, we don't always think of every possibility that could happen, or every contingency.
How are you backing up your data? When that flood happened, there were many companies that lost values of data because they collected all their data at their office. Well, if all your data
in the basement,
your office is destroyed, then you don't have any data. And that data could mean your business. If you lose all your data, you could lose your business. So you got to find ways to back up, whether it's cloud backup or on archive tape that goes into a safe and is locked up there. So there's lots of different kinds of archiving backup, and not all of them are the best for each person. So you have to determine what way of backing up is the best for your business, whether it's backing up to tape business, backing up to cloud, or backing up to a structure. How do you back up? And so that, just your data. So there's a lot of little things that you need to think about that people don't recognize. But with my years of experience and the people that I have working with me, who have a lot of years of experience in other avenues of preparedness and disaster preparedness and archiving and different kinds of things, we come together and really create an impactful change in businesses.
Yeah. And I just want to go back to one last thing too, when you're talking about the active shooter scenario, and then we kind of branched off. And I just want to kind of make the comment of, to your point is, I think it's really important, whether it be the community, the company itself, even within our own families, when tragedy happens or unexpected events, it's really, I think it's a kind of shows people's true or companies' true worth of how we handle that, right? There's the corporate speak and we don't want to get sued kind of thing, versus actually being from the heart, being from, we don't care if it's going to cost us X, we need to provide water, we need to close the business down, we need to bring in mental health expert, whatever the case may be. I think that really shows at every level, governmental, corporately.
But when you prepare for disasters, whether it's active shooter things or whatever, your liability goes down. Because I'll tell you, if an employee is in your company and his best friend gets shot, he's going to sue you for that mental distraction in his life. And if you prepared for disasters, if you implemented a training system that prepared the company, and the incident still happens, your liability ratio goes way down because you had that training, and your lawyers can bring that up. And whatever, even if it's the situation that happened in Texas, if that company had, I'm sure there was an attorney who said, they didn't prepare, so they need to pay. And if I was an attorney, I would pick up that case, because that is, there, for $1,000 plus some training, you would have had that lesser liability and probably saved lives.
Yeah, I'm going to be a little facetious for just a second, because being the accountant background, I don't want to paint with a broad brush, but probably there was potentially some discussion at some point. I was like, why don't we get this? Well, what's the chances? That's $1,000. That's the bottom line. Training costs. What's that really going to happen? Blah, blah, blah. And it probably, I don't know for sure. I'm just making this up, but there's probably things in corporations or small organizations, heck, even in our own personal families, where we're like, we do a sort of risk reward in our head. And we're like, that's probably not going to happen. Let's not do it. Like,
absolutely.
I have 2 fire extinguishers. I probably should have 4, but 2's probably good. I can probably get to 2. one of the 2, trying to make it down to the micro level, right? But probably somebody or someone made a decision that's probably not worth it, and then most
people don't have a fire extinguisher in their car, but that's where one of the biggest fire dangers is, in their car. So you should have a fire extinguisher and a first aid kit and an evacuation kit in your car at all times. You should have one every place you are. So you should have a go kit at your home, at your work, and at your car. And you should have a fire extinguisher everywhere where there's a potential for fire. Because that $25 fire extinguisher can save you.
And Jeffrey, I'll sheepishly admit I don't have one in my car. So maybe that'll be the title of this podcast, will be why you need a fire extinguisher in your car.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, we also have a lot of companies who say, "Oh, we already have a disaster preparedness training, and we do all that, and we already have CSR system in our thing." But a lot of people we have a lot of people who do take our training who already have systems like that, and they find that the information that we give them really adds on to what they already have. So even if your company already has a system that does disaster preparedness or CSR system, corporate social responsibility, our system really adds into that and makes it and adds a benefit to that. So it's like you said, it's all about numbers, and it's all about how you're going to do it. And people find it really beneficial to use our training to either supplement what they have or create something that they don't have, and it builds your business, it brightens your business, and creates new opportunities for you.
Absolutely. So Jeffrey, this is not a podcast about health, but that is kind of my background. So I always like to, kind of, as we slowly start to wrap up the show here, what does your, morning routine or health routine or what have you, what does that look like for you?
So I get up about 4 a.m. I head off to the gym. I do my exercise gym, which includes rowing machine for half an hour, running for an hour, and then exercising on weights for an hour. I eat well. I don't eat meat or dairy or wheat products or sugary products. And I also, one of the things that I do that makes me most healthy is because there's a triangle, there's body, mind, and spirit, is I make sure that every day I take a thinking hour at the end of the day, because if you activate your mind and think about things, and then I write down things, I copy down quotes from all these different people, or I read Socrates and different philosophers and stuff like that. Just take an hour to 2 hours of my day at the end of the day, write that down just before I write down rewrite my goals and stuff like that, and do my Jim Rohn my Jim Rohn things that I do, and I just keep those things in my mind and keep those things going. And as I brighten my mind, I brighten this. I also have a really cool product called Sleep M mattress that I sleep on. It has biocrystals in it. It has actually 16 crystals with gold and silver that I pounded into a powder, and they put it in this mattress on this pad, and they insert it in the mattress and the pillows. So I'm sleeping on a bed of crystals. And so we all know that energy is everywhere. Every piece of matter has energy. The sun comes down and heats a rock. That rock is hot. That's a transfer of energy. That's a scientific experiment. Well, all rocks and minerals and all that have energy, and crystals transmit energy at a higher rate and send message, and that which allows the brain to absorb that energy and transmit it throughout the body to help heal the body, because that's when we really heal ourselves, is when we sleep. So and the Sleep M product is incredible, and I love the products that I use for them, and they've made a change in my life that I can't even quantify with money.
That's awesome. And I'm going to put a link to some of the conversations we've had on the podcast.
Yeah, I'll send you a link to the sleep
regarding energy and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
As well. And I just want to really underscore for the audience here what Jeffrey said. And, everyone's got their own, what's right for them. That's what I truly believe. But Jeffrey very diligently, I think that if I added up about 2.5 hours of sort of, let's call it physical work, eating right, which is right for Jeffrey. And there's no one size fits all for everyone, but what's right for Jeffrey. Sleep, very important, and and the mattress or the crystals he mentioned, and then sort of the spiritual intellectual side is also very important for aging. We can't neglect our mind and keeping our mind useful. I mean, all the pieces fit together like a jigsaw puzzle, but if there's one piece I see clients as they get older is kind of that spiritual mind piece is what usually is lacking. So I love that you do all those pieces, Jeffrey. That is awesome. I really love that.
I'll tell you the one last thing that I do that
absolutely
is I'm a platelets donor. I give platelets every 2 weeks. I used to be a blood donor, now I get for the platelets, but giving platelets and blood, when you give blood, even if you give blood, it takes 20 minutes to give blood. Getting that blood and having your body reflush and recreate new blood is so good for your body, and it can save lives. So if you really want to do the one thing that you can do that's absolutely free and that helps people, saves lives, is give blood to the Red Cross or to any hospital. You can go to any hospital, they have a blood drive, you can walk in and say, I want to donate blood, because flushing blood out of your body and having your body create new blood, and those new blood cells that create, those actually create really good wellness in your body. So,
Jeffrey, I love that you said that. And I'm going to tie it to when I worked with one company in particular, it was a regular, someone on the employee engagement committee was really, I think they had a personal story from the past, but they were on it all the time. So I went very regularly then. And what I was going to say, what you reminded me is, I think it's part of the, the whole CSR is like, if you're a small business owner, you have a number of employees, big corporation, that's a very simple thing you can do once a month, once a quarter, whatever, as frequently as makes sense for you, is have some portion of your employees go and donate blood. I love that. Yeah. Absolutely. Jeffrey, what is one last, maybe tidbit or golden nugget for the audience before we wrap up?
Well, in all the trainings that we do, whether it's CSR or does that preparedness, the one thing you can do to prepare for disasters is to create leaders in your company. Leadership creates leaders, which builds your company, and leaders go out and create new leaders. So the one thing I would say is create leaders, and to do that diligently. And that's what I'd say the number one thing, and for your people to go out, your audience to go out there, is work actively every day to create leaders. Leadership is influence. And if you share your influence and create new leaders, whatever you do in life will be better off.
I think that's a great last word, so to speak. And again, the audience, I know you guys, right? We have solopreneurs, small business owners, entrepreneurs with big organizations, to corporate people of all sorts. Be that leader and develop those leaders in your own teams, in your own companies. I love that. Now, Jeffrey, I want to share also with the audience, you have a couple of gifts for the audience, a couple of free gifts as well. I'm not going to say the URLs right now. We're going to put them in the description in the show notes here for everyone. Jeffrey, I love the audience. I love the wisdom that you shared with our audience.
Thank you.
Today. Bring a totally different perspective. Again, that's why I reached out to you. Very, very unique individual. And like I mentioned at the top, I think I read like a quarter of your bio, the things you've been involved in. But I really appreciate you being on the show today. It's been fantastic.
Thank you very much.
All right, everyone. I'm going to throw it back to J23, who's going to guide us out with some music. Thank you for listening to the Deepak Saini Show. Remember, exceptional results for the exceptional you. Till next time.
Podcast produced by the Minted Green Company